Hi everyone, Alexandra Judd, Jupiter returns here with your weekly astrology forecast for the week of the 8th to the 14th of February. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all warm. I'm a little bit cold. My heating's not working in my house. That's what you get for having Aquarius as your fourth house. Saturn there is just making things a little bit hard work and a little bit cold. So I'm bundled up in jumpers today. I hope you're a little bit warmer and that Saturn's not causing too many problems for you. Saturn's going to be a big feature of the period that we're moving into. If you're familiar with the kind of the background context astrologically of 2021, then you'll already know that a main feature of this is the building Saturn-Uranus square that we're moving into. The first peak of that's going to be on February the 17th. So just a little bit over a week away. So we're really going to start to see the intensification of that square aspect playing out as these days of this week continue forward. And I've started to notice some of the expressions of that turning up both in my own life, but also out there in the bigger, wider world. We're seeing an increasing number of like landslide events. So for example, a big chunk of the White Cliffs of Dover fell off last week. There's been other big areas of the cliffs around the coast of England that are looking like they're on the brink of toppling into the water. We've had landslides abroad, avalanches. These are the kinds of things that I anticipate we'll see a little bit more of. Saturn really is adding pressure, adding extra weight. You know, Saturn really is a very heavy influence. And with Uranus there being that need to break apart, literally, to liberate, being in the sign of Taurus, which rules the earth, which rules Mother Earth, which rules Gaia, then we're starting to see this kind of the heaviness of Saturn just pushing some weight down on the cracks that Uranus is starting to create. And you can, you know, imagine all the metaphors of how that expression is showing up in your life as well. The other kind of influences that I'm seeing is a continuation and an intensifying of the theme of the breakup of our high streets, this solid part of the community, Saturn in Aquarius, is really being now broken apart and transformed. You know, Taurus rules shopping, it rules luxury items and retail. It's ruled by Venus. So it rules clothing and fashion and these kinds of things as well. So what we're seeing is Uranus is trying to shake up that world out of the ruts and sort of stagnancy and staleness that it's been in and revolutionize that area of life. And so what we're seeing is the old way of shopping, i.e., you know, physically going to the high street and spending a couple of hours wandering around a department store. That's really becoming a thing of the past now, as these empires are being kind of, these old empires and institutions of the shopping world are being broken up, and the old being left behind and moving retail and shopping into the online era even more so than has already been happening. Now we're really seeing some long lasting, this is what Saturn does, it makes things long lasting. So we're seeing long lasting changes and revolutions happening that are moving us into this new structure. Remember when Saturn and Jupiter came together at the Great Conjunction, winter solstice, December the 21st this year, started a 20-year cycle of really creating the societal structure. So this is that we're seeing this trend now really starting to gather some momentum. It's like actually society is going to look very different. And with it taking place in Aquarius, we can anticipate that that's going to be more digitized. It's going to involve more artificial intelligence. It's going to pull in any influences of being quite futuristic or progressive, or the kind of tomorrow's world vibe, if you're old enough like me to remember that. So yeah, we're just starting to see the beginnings of this. We're also seeing some the clash of, certainly here in the UK, we've got the protesters against the HS2 railway line. So these are environmental protesters. So remember, we've really seen a surge in people, Extinction Rebellion being the primary one, but we've since Uranus ingressed into the sign of Taurus, we've seen this huge surge in veganism and Extinction Rebellion, and people getting interested in moving our way forward as a society with greater respect for the natural environment that is ultimately what supports us, what sustains life on this earth. And I think there's an increasing acknowledgement of the fact, and Saturn will make us feel more responsible, or urge us to take more responsibility and have greater respect for the planet, because ultimately, if we keep seeing our natural resources as just something that we can exploit and take what we want from, without any considerations for how that's going to continue in the longer term, then life ultimately is going to come to an end. Like, we have to address these very, very serious issues within society. So we're seeing an increase of that again. So protesters trying to stop the development of this railway line, and they're clashing with the authorities, Saturn, who are saying, no, that's that it's trying to be limited and restricting this protest and rebellion. So we're also seeing other protests and rebellions and coups and all sorts of things going on around the world, and I anticipate that we're going to continue to see more of that throughout the weekend, certainly into next week, when the first Saturn-Uranus square of the 3 that we're going to have this year comes into its peak. So the other thing that we're also kind of, just to give some context of what's happening, the other thing that we've had is Saturn conjunct Venus over the weekend has been quite strong. So Venus relates to relating and pleasure and connection and beauty and harmony and love and the sweetness in life. Aquarius essentially is a little bit emotionally detached. As an air sign, it's not super mushy, right? So having Venus here gives us an element of being detached, essentially, in the way that, in our relating style. But it does give our focus to what are the collective values of the current society. And that's something that I'll continue to sort of discuss as we move through the week. But in conjunction with Saturn, we might have had some vibes over the weekend of feeling like these things are hard to achieve right now, which certainly, if you're like me in the UK and you're in a lockdown, yes, connection, pleasure, friendship, fun, these things are kind of sorely missed right now, with Saturn giving its limiting influence on that. But Saturn's weight to Venus is also saying, we've got to take our relationships and we've got to take our love nature and what it is that we value seriously. Saturn just makes things feel that bit more serious. And Venus, she kind of wants to have fun. She doesn't want to get super serious. But there are times, and I feel like this week is one of those times, when we do need to get a little bit serious about our values long term, Venus Saturn. As that's a really powerful part of the new moon that we're coming into. So now Venus is actually moving away from Saturn. The aspect is separating, which is nice, because now she has Jupiter in her sights. And this is the two benefics of the universe coming together. So Venus's love and sweetness combined with Jupiter's optimism and hope and generosity, bringing us an increasing awareness and an increasing connection to the things that bring us love and pleasure. So we can only celebrate that. That's really, really lovely energy. So let's go into today's energy then. So we're on Monday, the 8th of February, and the moon is, she's very deeply waning now. She's shrinking right down, ready to move into her new moon phase on Thursday. She's in the sign of Capricorn, which again is kind of keeping us in that Saturnian vibe, because Saturn rules Capricorn. Moon isn't comfortable in Capricorn because of that. Moon is tender. She wants care. She wants nurturance. And Saturn Capricorn vibes are way more rational. They're like, okay, real life, cold, hard light of day, got to work for what you want, got to be realistic. And so there can be a clash. And so those feelings of isolation, feelings of there being a lack of warmth in every sense, can be kind of pulled through from that Venus-Saturn conjunction, with the moon's ruler now being Saturn as she's moved into Capricorn. So we've got a couple of days now of Venus in Capricorn before she ingresses Aquarius. Then what we also have, actually really important, is we have the conjunction of our Mercury retrograde and the Sun. So there's two kinds of a conjunction with Mercury and the Sun. And this is the inferior or interior conjunction with the Sun. So this is what happens when Mercury is retrograde. And essentially it means that Mercury is disappearing into the glare of the Sun and their energies are combining. But essentially what it's doing is it's giving us an opportunity to, we're having a rethink. Any Mercury retrograde is about, let's go back over something, let's go deep within and really reconsider things. It's not about moving things forward in terms of understanding or communicating or moving things around. It's really about saying, okay, let's just reconsider where we already are and what we've moved over since the end of January. And before, actually, when Mercury was in pre-retrograde shadow, we're re-going over all of that ground, including some really big important events in the world, vaccine rollouts and the presidential inauguration in the US. So many things are now being gone back over to be reviewed, to have the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and to just make sure we're really, really clean and pure about, what it is that we want. And again, this is pulling us back to that great conjunction energy of Saturn Jupiter on the winter solstice, and saying, we set these intentions, these powerful intentions for what we want society to become over the next 20 years. And this Mercury retrograde is just saying, okay, since, what have we got, like 6 weeks has passed since that time. Have we learned anything new? Have things changed? What is changing? What might need to change? Where do we feel that some adjustments are necessary? So this is the part of the transit of the Mercury retrograde where the old's kind of really getting burned away in the glare and the flames and the heat of the sun. We can have some epiphanies at this time. We can have some kind of breakthroughs in understanding, particularly if we're really using the opportunity to go within and do some inner explorations. All right. But yeah, this is the inferior conjunction of Mercury, and essentially think about it like the new moon of Mercury. It's kind of saying, all right, let's come up with something new. Let's burn away the old ideas that aren't doing us any good, come up with something new, and then give birth to that. So it's kind of like we've got two new moons going on this week, the new moon of the moon and the new moon of Mercury as well. So that's the big news for Monday. Going on then onto Tuesday, the 9th, the moon will at this point continue her journey through Capricorn. She's going to meet up with Pluto. Moon Pluto aspects really just intensify how we are feeling. The moon really is our kind of our programmed responses to life. And things take on quite a potent feel when she's connecting with Pluto. And don't forget, this is as she's deeply in the release phase, where letting go of everything from the last lunar cycle, ready to make space for something new to come in. So as the moon's moving over the area of the chart that was really involved in the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that we were moving into a year ago, that really kicked off this whole crisis, this whole deep, long-lasting transformation of the structures of our society that we're all going through now, off the back of this COVID crisis and our responses to all of the challenges that is presenting us. So the moon's kind of washing this up to the surface again in quite an intense way, and really reminding us of, this Pluto work is not finished. Even though all of the emphasis now is in Aquarius, when Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter, that triple conjunction in Capricorn last year, that was just tipping the dominoes over and saying, let's start that. It's still going on. It still continues for a long while. And certainly until Pluto finishes the job in Capricorn, as far as I can see. So yeah, Moon just tapping us back into that whole thing. What is it that this crisis came into our collective world and into our individual worlds to try and bring about a transformation of, Pluto wants a death and rebirth, and it doesn't want some airy-fairy on the surface kind of transformation. It wants deep, deep transformation. So when the moon's there, it's going to really pull us down into the shadows and just remind us and say, this stuff is still there. Getting through the transit, getting through this process, it's really not what it's all about at all. So if that's your mindset, like I've just got to hang in there until lockdown lifts and then everything's great, no, that's not going to cut it, because, things are not going back to normal. As I've said numerous times now, Saturn in Aquarius is creating the new normal. It's laying the foundation stones for Pluto's ingress into Aquarius in a couple of years' time. We're reinventing Aquarius. We're coming up with something new, something better, something more equal. So if you're hanging on to the past, Saturn, if you're clinging on to the old paradigm of, I want to get back to going shopping, I want to get back to going on my holidays, I want to get back to just being a consumer and not really considering the impact on the earth, this crisis hasn't taught you what it needs to teach you, I would argue, and therefore it's probably going to have to hang around a little bit longer, because it's a wake-up call. And it's not about just enduring the rudeness of that and then going back to sleep. That's not why we're woken up at all. So yeah, Moon's going to tap us into that then as we go on into Tuesday. So expect some intense emotions. Also expect some compulsive behaviors as well to come up to the surface. So yeah, like I say, the moon's going to kind of go right down deep into our shadowy areas, those taboo areas, those hidden areas of ourselves that we hide from, and bring them up to the surface. you know, or drain the swamp so that we can see where all the skeletons are hidden. And essentially, again, that's for a reason. It's not just to horrify you, it's so that you can then take ownership. And as the moon then moves on to Saturn, that's exactly what she's going to be asking us to do. Saturn is about owning your stuff, being responsible, being grown up about it. All right. And we just have to do that. All this Uranus energy at the moment has everyone saying, no, I need to be free. I want to do whatever I want to do and all of this. And that's wonderful, but it's just not realistic. You know, if everyone just did whatever the hell they wanted, then we couldn't create a community. There has to be some responsibility. There has to be some order. And that's what Saturn's bringing. So essentially, Moon moving over Pluto is going to tune us into those shadows. And then as she passes Saturn, the next day, it's going to be saying, yeah, we got to own this stuff now. We got our own transformation work. And in doing so, we are then strengthening the community, Aquarius. When we do our work, we're being a force for good. We are being the change that we want to see in the world. We're not just sitting around caring about our own selfish wants and needs and hoping that society just magically changes around us because we really want it to. Like, this is about saying, yeah, that's only going to happen if everyone that's part of that society is doing their bit. You know, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So we all have a duty to strengthen our link in the chain. So yeah, some impulsive behaviors, compulsive behaviors can come up to the surface. And that's really great because we can witness that, you know, that the moon is shining her light on it. She's a luminary. And so that then gives us the opportunity to say, is this deeply ingrained shadow behavior or compulsion? Is that serving me? Or is that something that I now need to leave behind as I move into this new moon and a brand new start, a fresh, clean slate? Is it, you know, is it that I need to be done with? Let that die with the old moon cycle. So it's a great opportunity to establish quite clearly what now needs to be removed, purged, got rid of, out of your system, ready to begin something new. What's also building on this day is the Mercury retrograde in square to Mars. I'm already picking up on this a little bit. I mean, I'm a little bit more sensitive to planetary influences anyway, which is why I do what I do. But Mercury retrograde with the Mars, that square is going to probably create some quite provocative interactions, which could involve a little bit of conflict, a little bit of haste, impatience, or kind of foot in mouth disease, you know, like speaking a little bit too impulsively or just kind of saying the wrong thing really quickly because you didn't really engage your brain before you opened your mouth. You know, the speed and impulsivity of Mars with Mercury not in its best shape, combust the sun and in retrograde is kind of like, oh my God, you know, not a great time to be entering into any important negotiations or conversations or signing contracts or anything that really needs a more calm, grounded approach. Leave this for a few days, really, until it's waning, because yeah, it's going to be very stimulating. Mercury's a very busy energy, and with all of this emphasis in air signs, you know, there's a lot going on mentally. There's a lot going on in the mind and the mouth. Anyway, we can feel very scattered. You know, it's not very solid, calm energy. So when we then, you know, give it some Mars as well, it's going to be potentially quite uncomfortable. So just bear that in mind. Think before you speak, think before you act, and any important communications, probably leave those aside for a couple of days. The alternative to that, if you're a little bit more familiar with meeting these energies and these influences halfway, you could use that provocative aspect really to stimulate change. You know, Mars is stimulating energy, it's energizing, it's dynamic, it gives you mojo and juice to do something. It's your libido, you know, your lust for life. And Mercury wants to make a change, especially when Mercury is in retrograde. It wants to make a change. Mercury rules healing, purifying, improving. So you could choose to capture that quite dynamic energy to help stimulate where it is you want to make change. Okay, stimulate any changes that you're trying to make or any ties that you're trying to cut. Mars is a knife, it's a blade. So if there's anything that you're trying to cut in terms of outdated and outworn thinking processes, or perhaps your inner dialogue needs cleaning up, or the way that you communicate with other people, or, you know, those kinds of things. This could help you actually, if you're crafty about it, you could capture this energy and use it to help with those things as well. So if you feel yourself getting caught in the kind of downsides of it or the less desirable qualities, see if you can say, okay, that energy is very present in me. It's very strong. I can master this energy and use it for what I want to do. So is there a project that you needed the motivation to go back over and redo? Then especially inner work at this time in the moon phase, then that would be really, really great, really stimulating. Okay, so moving then into Wednesday the 10th of February, Moon has now finished her job in Capricorn and has ingressed Aquarius. So this is where we're starting to really get such a pile up in Aquarius. And you may have heard a lot about this. It's quite rare to have this much planetary activity in one sign. It's called a stellium. The last time we had a stellium this size in Aquarius was in 1962. What we have is we have 4 planets. You'll read all sorts of memes. I've seen them myself, saying there's a gazillion planets and it's the rarest thing since hen's teeth. Kind of not. There's 4 planets there: Saturn, Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury, and the 2 lights or luminaries, so Sun and Moon. Back in 1962, when this happened previously, we also had, it was an eclipse, so we had nodal activity there as well, which isn't a planet either. But yes, it's a lot of energy in Aquarius, so it's really emphasizing the Aquarian vibe. And as I said for yesterday's forecast, Moon first meets up with Saturn. And so that's really saying, okay, we've got to get real about owning my stuff, doing my duty in terms of what it is that I am trying to contribute to the redesign, the reprogramming of the societal structure and of my community and my tribe. So she's deeply, deeply waning as she moves past Saturn. And then as she gets into the evening, she's then applying to Venus and Jupiter, who are also now coming closer and closer together all the time. So this is really, really lovely energy. Combination of Moon and Venus and Jupiter is all very warm energy. It's essentially tuning us into, if we look deeper at the Venus-Jupiter conjunction, you know, the 2 benefics of the sky coming together. So the abundance and opportunities that Jupiter creates, you know, he really is a door opener But you have to put your effort in as well. It's not going to fall into your lap. And this is, where you have to be careful with astrology, is this isn't just all just going to happen for you. It's influences, and some of those influences, depending on what's going on in your chart, are going to be really, really strong. But it's not just going to fall in your lap. You have to meet the energy part way. And certainly that's the best way of working with Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is, as I say, it opens doors and it creates opportunity for increase, okay, for abundance, and for good luck and blessings of all kinds. But we have to pull that in. And the way that we pull that in the best, I've found with Jupiter, is through the attitude of gratitude, and actually having a communication, a dialogue with the world around us all the time, that acknowledges and gives thanks for everything in our life that we already have. That makes us so lucky already, so incredibly privileged, particularly in my culture. And it's very, very easy at times like this to focus solely on everything that's wrong in the world. Yes, the world is going through some absolute horrors right now, but we've got to maintain this attitude of, do you know what, my apartment might be cold, my heating's broken, but I've got warm clothes to put on, and I have an apartment, I have a warm bed with an electric blanket that I can get into. We have so much more than so many people. And when we genuinely create that vibration of appreciating the blessings in our life, then we call more back in. And this is something you really want to be doing as we come into the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. This is a rare conjunction, and it's something to really take advantage of. But it's also saying to us, what are the blessings of being part of the community? Because right now, the community, the tribe, the populace, whatever you want to call it, kind of feels very divided. It's a place where there's lots of tension and arguments, as with this Saturn Uranus square is showing, the fight against kind of the need to keep things as they are and go back to the way things were, and all of that kind of thing. And the energy of trying to create progress, trying to move into something newer and better. And the ways in which people believe that needs to be brought about, it's really created some division and challenge through the square aspect. So it's time to really reconsider with the Mercury retrograde, as Venus and Jupiter come together, what are the aspects of society that are actually really, really good? What's good about this? It's hard. It's hard having to be the reason Sun gets a little bit lost in Aquarius. It's considered to be in detriment in Aquarius, is because we're just one of the crowd. We can feel like as an individual we're not really that. We don't stand out. We don't make our mark. Or it can feel like that because the Sun's happier being in Leo, where it's in the spotlight and all of the attention is on Leo, and it's more visible, right? It stands out as the king. In Aquarius, it's just like, well, yeah, we're all kings, So it can be easy to just feel like, oh God, there's so many people and everyone's got their own ways of doing things, and it's really hard to find what I feel like is my tribe, people who have the alignment with the same core values. That's the Venus essence in this. And I think that we're all actually going through this. Aquarius rules friendships and networks and social groups and societies. So having this Saturn Uranus aspect going on there is really getting us to establish, redefining who our solid kind of inner circle is, based on, you know, the ethics and beliefs and core values that underpin us. And the crisis, this Pluto kind of draining the swamp, is exposing the hard reality of that in ways that ordinarily it wouldn't do. So we are coming up against aspects of each other and our relationships with each other that's exposing really, really what's at the core of this person in terms of their beliefs and their value systems. And is that in alignment with mine? And we're letting some of those go, and that's fine. You know, that's what Mercury retrograde's all about. It's like, let's have another look at that and just reestablish, you know, is that really, you know, does that need some clarification? Does it need some purifying? Does it need some healing? Does it need some improvement? So these are the areas that we're going to be focused on as Venus and Jupiter come closer together. But it's tuning us into the blessings and resources and abundance and reminding us of, you know, the opportunities and love and greatness that we can be a part of when we work together and when we collaborate and when we have that strong sense of tribe. Saturn shows up the weaknesses in a sign, all right? Wherever he's going, he's going to expose he's going to stress test. If there's any little hairline cracks in the structure of that sign, he's going to show them up so that we can fix them, okay? So that we can strengthen them. That's the point. So he's showing the weaknesses within the tribe, within the collective. And yeah, Uranus then gives us the opportunity to see that and to make the necessary changes going forward. But it's an uncomfortable process, you know. The other thing on Wednesday the 10th is that, you know, I'm going to say here, hold that thought, you know, that thought of what the collective gives us, the beauty and abundance and love and strength that we have as being part of a collective and not just being an island, although it's tempting to want to be that at the moment. All of those thoughts, keep those in mind very, very much strongly, because also we have Mercury at this time. Oops, microphone's gone over. Mercury retrograde. No, that's a square. So also at this time, we are going to have, sorry, there we go, microphone's behaving. We're going to have Mercury trining the North Node, all right? North Node in Gemini, which of course is ruled by Mercury. So really super easy connection here. And this is saying, okay, well, where are we going? What's our destiny? Like, what's in our future? And so these thoughts, Mercury retrograde, about the beauty and abundance and opportunities that are created when we work together and collaborate as a team, as a tribe, and bring our best selves into society and see the best in society, encourage the best in society. That's really going to pour really so easily into this North Node of destiny, the direction that we're going in. So for all this to be happening around that new moon, it's really beautiful energy. You know, please don't consider the new moon to just be that moment on that day. It's a process, and this is a really important part of it. So get those feelings going on, think about those things, and then hold that thought as we move through Wednesday and Wednesday evening. Okay, then, so the big news then on Thursday, of course, has to be that Aquarius New Moon. So the moon will, let's move these a little bit further back. So much going on in Aquarius, it's hard to fit it all in. Okay. So the new moon then, the coupling of the divine feminine moon energy with the divine masculine energy of the sun, the inner and outer worlds coming together to create this most fertile point of new beginnings and of starts. So this is taking place at 23 degrees of Aquarius at around about 8 p.m. UK time. So find that in your chart, what house. Anyone that attended my Zoom session over the weekend, which was really beautiful. It was a gorgeous energy to be part of a tribe again. So thank you so much to everybody who attended. Yeah, if you attended that, you'll know how to find Aquarius in your chart and understand therefore, what is the area of your life that we have this new beginning in? So just collectively then, I cast the chart for the new moon in the UK. So from London, it actually has a Virgo ascendant. So this is really interesting. No, it's not a trine. It's a trine to Pluto. So the ascendant in Virgo makes Mercury its chart ruler for those of us in the UK. So apologies if that doesn't include you. The ascendant for the new moon in the UK is Virgo, and Virgo ruled by Mercury, it makes Mercury the chart ruler of this new moon. And then for all of this stuff that we're doing with the Mercury retrograde takes on that bit more importance. It also speaks to improvements and healing and taking practical steps. Virgo is an earth sign, so it likes to do things in a practical way. So I'm loving the fact that we've got that. There's also an exact trine from the Virgo ascendant to Pluto in Capricorn. So again, this powerful energy of transformation, of death and rebirth. And again, that takes us back to the beginning of the week. If you remember when the moon was transiting over Capricorn, and I talked to you then about those energies, you can see now why it's all that more relevant that we're doing our work with the moon, in the surrounds of the peak lunations. Okay, because it's all part of making the most of them. So wonderful opportunity to transform things for the better. And that better is going to involve service. Virgo is all about how am I of service to other people? How do I serve? How do I show up for other people? Which is exactly the attitude that I feel that we now need as we're starting to create this new societal structure with the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius. So a very potent new moon full of opportunities. And of course, the Venus-Jupiter conjunction perfects at the new moon as well. So the combining of the sweetness of Venus and the generosity of Jupiter is really, really profound in this new moon. So please carry that heartfelt belief into this new moon with the intentions that you're setting. Let those intentions be informed by, higher love, Jupiter, Venus, the best possible kinds of compassion to others, kindness to others, consideration for other people, greater balance and equality. Greater being Jupiter, balance being Venus. She rules Libra, those scales of justice. And in Aquarius, that's very much about equality, very much about, humanitarianism and equal rights. We're leaving behind the old top-down power dynamics of the Capricorn old school era of, the patriarchy. And we're moving into a time when, there isn't the boss at the top. It's not going to work like that anymore. Everybody has a valid contribution to make. and everybody is as important as everybody else. And yeah, Mars is making that a little bit hard to feel at the moment with these squares. You know, Mars is all about me and what I want. And I come across this a lot, you know, I want to go on holiday and I want lockdown to end so I can have this and I can do that and me. And I really think that until we deeply, deeply adjust that attitude of me first, we're going to struggle, because me first is going to get so lost in these Aquarian times. Aquarius isn't about me, and neither is Virgo. Virgo is about how do I improve my sense of self via, being of use to the collective. So it is a really, really potent new moon, a powerful new start. Think back to the intentions that you set around the Great Conjunction time, if you were engaged with the process then. But also remember, I put some information out at the time about the I Ching, which is an ancient text that I consult, that is... it provides advice in the form of hexagrams, and the hexagram that I recommended people engage with for the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction was basically saying, remember that this progress, this move forward is going to be very slow. Jupiter wants to do things in big, grand ways. It's the big ideas and the ideals of life. And Saturn is saying we kind of need to just rein that in a bit, and we can make some progress, yes, but it needs to be slow, it needs to be considered, and it needs to be in rational, incremental steps, okay? Slowly, as long as we're making, as long as we're putting one foot in front of the other, we're making progress, even though it can seem painfully slow. That's the kind of progress you want to be focused on this year. We're not going to be doing the woohoo, everything's open again, let's, forge forwards. Saturn's really going to be saying, okay, no, these changes that we're making, they need to last. Pluto's coming in a couple of years to cover all this territory. So these foundation stones that we're laying, they need to be super solid. And you don't make things that endure quickly. Yeah, you can't just throw it together. This takes work, and it takes effort, and it takes discipline. Boring, I know, but yeah, it's necessary. We want what we're creating to endure and to last and to stand us in good stead for the next generation that comes up. We want to leave a legacy of the work that we're doing for the children that are coming through, because they really are the future, So let's get it right and just keep our expectations in check. Have great expectations, yes, but don't expect that things are just gonna, just fall into our lap and happen really quickly, because they're kind of not with Saturn's involvement. So have that intention, have that practical kind of grown up and mature attitude towards the intentions that you're setting, that, you're not expecting some magic wand, and you're prepared to do the hard work that's involved in it. And I think that the universe will hear you and see you that bit more clearly, let's say. So have a beautiful new moon, and just have that intention that, you being part, be the change. That's why I put my mascot bee here in Aquarius for the year. Be the change that you want to see in society. That's the overriding message of this new moon. Okay, as we move then into Friday, the moon kind of, because she's at the end of Aquarius during the new moon, once she separates from the sun, she's void of course for a while. So she's not really making any new aspects, and that kind of is going to prolong the energy of the new moon. So you might find that you want to be quite withdrawn, that you want to, go within just that little bit longer. It might extend a little bit into Friday as well. But the moon will ingress into Pisces then. And again, this is continuing the theme of selflessness. Pisces isn't about ego and me and mine. Pisces is about, what can I do for other people? Understanding that we are all connected to each other as spiritual beings, and having that sense of compassion for other people. So it's beautiful to have that, being the aspects that the moon is now creating. And what she's first going to do, of course, is she's going to be creating a sextile aspect to Uranus. So again, this is going to really help us to continue the work of the new moon. Uranus being the ruler of, or one of the rulers of Aquarius. Okay, so that moon coming off the back of an Aquarian Uranian lunation point, and then the first planet she's going to speak to is Uranus. Beautiful. What's more beautiful about it is that the sextile aspect here then gives us an opportunity to make something happen. It's an encouragement for us to make something solid. We've got water with Pisces, and we've got earth with Taurus. So of course this is that clay. It's taking the soil and the water and it's turning it into clay, and it's saying, okay, let's mold this, let's shape this, let's create, the vessel that is from the ideas and the intentions that we set at that new moon. So it can really help with manifestation work. And if that manifestation work is really tapped into this idea of change, of progress, good progress, not progress for the sake of it, of greater equality, greater awareness and consciousness. Uranus really is about the higher consciousness, particularly with regards to our use of resources, as I mentioned at the start of the week in Taurus there. How do we use our resources? Are we conscious consumers in every example of life? What's our connection to the planet? What needs to change there? And if there's a real desire for change and bringing about change, then that's really going to be facilitated by this sextile aspect on Friday. And then overnight, Venus's next kind of move is that she's going to meet up with Mercury retrograde. So this is continuing the work of Mercury retrograde. Any issues that you've had since kind of early-ish January to now with regards to relationships, with regards to money, with regards to your own resources and your own sense of self-worth, self-esteem, your ability to connect with pleasure, with love, all of these things, this is the Mercury retrograde opportunity to go back and clean those things up, to, have a rethink about those areas of life, and, get you to do your work, essentially. So that's kind of the aspect that Mercury is making on Friday. As we go then into Saturday the 13th, Saturday the 13th of February, we have the moon then meeting up with Neptune. So quite dreamy. Again, it's kind of pulling through some of the vibes of that new moon and saying, okay, let's keep the dream alive, essentially. Neptune is very dreamy, very romantic energy. And the moon, she's now waxing, she's growing bigger, she's gaining in strength. So the context that she's making at this point in her journey, they're pulling these planets in. She's pulling the influence of Neptune in and saying, okay, this dream, this intention, these seeds we planted at the new moon, let's give our most ideal kind of feelings to those. All right, let's involve the highest possible unconditional love. You know, Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. It's completely selfless love. How do we bring that in? And also it's great for creativity as well. So writers, poets, artists of any kind, you can use this energy to your advantage as well, and you know, and really kind of channel through the imagination of Neptune. Neptune has a really great imagination, which sometimes can lead us astray. Undoubtedly, we can see things not quite as they are, but yeah, this is nice, kind vibrations for us all to tap into and inform. Just keep that dream alive of wanting a better world, essentially. And then overnight, it's Jupiter's turn then to meet up with Mercury retrograde. Finished with Venus, and now it's Jupiter's time. So with Jupiter conjunction the Mercury retrograde, going back over any legal issues that you might have had that might have started to stir up, any issues around politics that might need a review or a change. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the impeachment trial, the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump, and the political situation that's going on over in the States, because you know the Mercury shadow period, the pre-retrograde shadow, you know, was when we had the inauguration, and you know, all those accusations of the election results not being real and that kind of thing. So that's one to look out for. Jupiter also represents long distance travel. So Mercury retrograde, if you have got some long distance travel plans, which probably not many have, things might come unstuck there, I'm afraid. Might need to be unpicked or rethought out. Let's not forget, you know, the South Node is in Sagittarius. This whole idea of just going back and starting up world cruises again and all this kind of thing, we really got to shift from that kind of idea. The North Node is in Gemini. The North Node is saying, got to keep our focus more local, all right? The globalization of the Sagittarian kind of influence, a little bit less of that with this, with the South Node saying, you know, let that inform our way forwards, yes, but we've done enough of that now. Okay, we've all done enough of the traveling, the long distance traveling for the time being. So yeah, the Mercury Jupiter retrograde might be giving us a rethink on that, and a rethink in general on our personal ethics, or the ethics that we see at play within the community, within society, the politics that lies behind that, and also leadership. Jupiter is a real leadership thing. Who are our teachers? Who are our gurus? Who are our mentors? Do we have people that are worthy of following? You know, being disciples of. Is that something that needs a rethink? Are we going to rethink, you know, I mean, just look at the Donald Trump situation in the US as an example, and that crazy kind of following that he got. Well, what are the ethics that underpin a man like that? What are the beliefs? And do we need to kind of re-go over those, rethink those a bit, clarify those, and get down to the real nuts and bolts facts? You know, not the ideas of what this man is, but, you know, judge things by the actual actions that have been taken, the things that have been done. Aquarius, fortunately, in its emotional detachment, can help us to take a more objective look at things. So this Mercury retrograde really is a time that we can make a lot of progress, essentially, with the Mercury retrograde, because it kind of keeps our emotions out of the picture a bit. And yeah, just having a rethink over our leaders and how we influence other people as well. You know, huge amount of criticism being levied at media and journalism. around at this moment in time. And so Mercury, Jupiter coming together, I mean, they really speak to the written word, Mercury, and how it receives a wider audience. Jupiter rules publishing and taking those words and whether they're spoken or written and delivering them out in a more global way. So how have we become publishers and journalists? You know, every day you write something on your Instagram or your Twitter or your Facebook or whatever, you've become the media. So if we're all going to criticize the media, then we have to, like I say, be the change. If you want media to be accurate and be reliable and have integrity and all of these things, which we do, we want truth, which is another Jupiterian quality, then what's our part in that going to be? Are we going to do that ourselves? Are we going to have integrity in the things that we say and write? Because we can't have double standards. Well, we can, but it's pretty dumb. You know, we can't be hypocritical. You know, we're not going to get anywhere with that kind of attitude. Well, I think you should be really good, but I can't be bothered because this sounds about right. So, you know, chuck it out there. You know, this is how false information really can take a hold, and we're witnessing a lot of how that's playing out right now. So personal responsibility for what we, the influence that we have on other people through our words and our thoughts as well. Okay, so going on then into Sunday the 14th, happy Valentine's Day. Lots of love to you all. This is, we're going to have kind of Venus, Jupiter, Mercury retrograde for Valentine's Day. So the Venus-Jupiter conjunction still active, which is really, really nice. Kind of loose squares over to Mars there does make it quite an active energy. You know, squares between Venus and Mars can cause a little bit of conflict, but it can also stimulate a little bit of excitement as well. Let's say between the sexes, Venus and Mars can get stimulated there with that connection. I think also then with the Mercury retrograde being so involved in this could be the, you know, the thoughts or communications wandering back to past loves. You know, the South Node's ruler being in Sagittarius is Jupiter. So we've got a Mercury retrograde and we've got it conjunct Jupiter, ruler of the South Node. So yeah, a little bit more of that flavor of loves that have gone by. Potentially an opportunity to just go back into that stuff, go back into that relationship, either explicitly or implicitly, or, you know, literally, or just within your own self, and just pick it apart and make sense of it, essentially. And as you decide how you're going to be in relationship going forward, and in relationship to the tribe, to community. You know, Venus in Aquarius is exactly that. What's my connection to my people? How is it now? And how do I want it to be going forwards, essentially? So it could be one of those Valentine's days where you get a surprise card on the doormat from the ex, something like that. It's applying to, we've got an applying trine from Venus to the North Node now. So they can feel like a fated aspect to any connections made at this time as well. It can feel like people are popping up into your world, probably through the online world, because Uranus, Aquarius rules the digital world. So those kinds of connections can have a kind of a fated or destined feel to them, or make us feel like it's someone that we've known from a prior lifetime or something like that. We have a sextile. Whenever there's a trine to the North Node, there'll always be a sextile to the North Node. And that's encouraging us to say, let me take the lessons of the past, the wisdom that I've gained from the past, and let that inform my future. Okay, I don't want to stay in the past. I don't want to, I can revisit the past just to get some extra wisdom from it. Yeah. But the past is the past. And now it's a case of using what was learned there to move you forward, towards the future. So it's quite an important Valentine's Day from that respect. The moon ingresses Aries then at around 5 p.m. UK time. So the moon will emphasize the Mars flavor as well, because Aries is ruled by Mars. So again, this is going to provoke that need to take some kind of action. The square aspect as well, doing that, it's very provocative. It's like saying, make something happen here, do something. So yeah, just be careful with what you choose to do, because again, the moon in Aries can be quite impulsive, quite rash, ill-considered, those kinds of things. So yeah, again, it could give you that sudden desire to get in touch with an ex or something like that, or revisit the past. But Aries energy it burns itself out quite quickly. It's not got a huge amount of staying power. It's kind of like woof. It's like when those fire breathers, they have a thing and they burn. There's this huge cloud of flame that grabs your attention. It's like, wow, but it's there 1 minute and it's gone the next. And that's kind of like what the moon in Aries is like. It's kind of like, wow, powerful, exciting emotions. And if you act on them, that action is like you're likely to not want to follow through on it, essentially, as the days move on. And then Mercury kind of moves out of Aries, and it's kind of like, yeah, wow, I'm kind of done with that now. So yeah, just being a little bit more grounded. We've all got to try and be grounded right now because there's so much air energy. It has us all very scattered. Okay, so what we do have though with that moon in Aries is, what's going on there? Yeah, this is awesome. So the moon in Aries then, although she doesn't always, not necessarily is going to follow through, this again is going to be helpful in just keeping the flame of the new moon burning, because as the moon moves through Aries, fire, Aquarius, all of the planets that we have in Aquarius, that's an air sign, so it's oxygen. And we know what happens when we combine oxygen with fire, right? It stimulates. So as the moon moves through Aries, she's going to then sextile all of the planets over there in Aquarius one by one. So as she's continuing to grow, as she's waxing from that new moon, again, she's speaking to each one of these planets in turn and saying, yeah, remember my input into the new moon. Remember what I can bring and contribute to that, and let each of those be how we really make a move forward. The very first point of Aries is called the Aries point. And it's considered to be a very potent part of the chart. When the sun reaches that point, we'll have the vernal equinox. It's the start of the new natural year. So it's very, very powerful. And it's said that, actions taken when planets are on that point, the actions of the individual have a huge impact on the rest of the world. It's the world axis, okay, that's created by the solstice and equinox points, or the beginning degrees of each of the cardinal signs. So when we do something, as the moon is, particularly when she's waxing, when she's increasing over that point, it's saying, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to keep doing that something because I really, really want to make something happen in the world. I want to be about something. I don't just want to be a passenger. Right? I want to be one of the driving forces that makes stuff happen. So these sextiles are going to be really, really supportive. And they are going to really help to build on your intentions that you've set with the new moon. So really, really supportive. It's a beautiful week, and I hope this has been useful to you as always. If it has, do give me a like, and definitely please subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell thing so you get notifications when I put new videos out there. Give me a comment, tell me about the intentions that you're setting. You know, I really want to encourage people to support each other within the little community that I've created within Jupiter Returns. You know, I have 3,000 followers on Aquarius now, on Facebook now, and I'd really like to encourage my followers to help support each other and to come together as more of a community and as a tribe for each other. I'm always there in the background, but I really would encourage more communication between you. So drop down a comment and look out and read for other people's as well. And then we can work together. Have a beautiful new moon, and I will be back again next Monday as always. Until then, lots of love and have a beautiful Valentine's Day too. Lots of love. Bye.